Thank you for remembering to do that. Okay, welcome everyone. I think we'll get started in 1 minute. We're waiting for a couple of panelists to still show up. Okay, well, welcome everyone. Let's just kick this off. My name is Mari Sell. I'm with the Alaska Safety Alliance and joined here by Carrie Ann Carty, also with ASA, and I see Leanne is on as well. That is our small but mighty ASA staff here at the BEC meeting today. And today's session is going to focus on what Alaska needs to do to prepare for the emerging workforce development needs that are many happening in Northwest Alaska, specifically Nome. So we're gonna learn a little bit about the Deep Draft Port project, though our one of our panelists, Glenn, is not here yet, but we'll learn a little bit about the Graphite One project. And we'll hear from Okleasik. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly, as well as hopefully someone from Kawerak regarding the initiatives that are taking place to train up the workforce. So with that, I would like to ask for a safety moment. Does anybody have a safety moment as we begin? Okay, Carrie Ann, I'm going to call on you. Give us a safety moment.
Sorry about that. All right. So right now in Anchorage, I'm not sure what the road conditions are like in other parts of the state, but in Anchorage, we've had a significant amount of snow. And the temperatures keep changing. It seems week to week, we're having different extremes, kind of mid-30s melting and then refreezing and then some snow on top. So right now, our intersections are extremely slippery, though the highways and some other roads are pretty good, pretty easy to travel. Right when you get up to the intersection, it seems like there's a lot of glare ice. I see a lot of people driving way too fast based on the fact that some of the highways and main roads are pretty dry, but those intersections remain super icy and slick. So just using that extra caution, making sure you're giving yourself plenty of distance and keeping back from the car in front of you, making sure that you're not trying to make that yellow light. I saw a lot of that going on this morning. Use the right speed for the conditions, which is not always the maximum amount of speed limit available to you. So, and remember, school is back on, and our little ones are out there at bus stops in the dark, and those intersections can be a place where the bus stops. So be very cautious about kiddos on the street.
Thanks, Carrie Ann. So the panelists that we have here today, we have Mike, Doug, and Uklaysaaq. I'm sorry, I am butchering your name. I'm so sorry. Ukallaysaaq. Somebody needs to rescue me. I apologize. And so we will go ahead and kick this off with Mike. Mike Schaefer, who will tell us about the Graphite One project.
Thanks, Maury. I guess just a real brief introduction to me. I've lived in Alaska 3 years, spent close to 40 years in the mining industry, worked for several very large companies like Nome, Coeur d'Alene, Jamaica, which would be NACTEC, and Kawerak. Really happy to be associated with the Graphite One project. It's a very exciting project that we've been able to develop, and happy to be able to share some of the developments with this project and kind of the timeline with you guys of how we'll be putting people on and moving forward. So in saying that, most of you know that Graphite One has the Graphite Creek project, which is about 38 miles north of Nome, Alaska, off of the Emmerich Basin there. It's got a lot of attention here. About 2 years ago, the USGS defined it as the largest graphite deposit in North America. And then here last year, they came in and said that it was one of the largest graphite deposits in the world. You know, from what we know, it's probably setting at like number 1 or between 1 and 3 of the size. If you looked at our reserves on the book, we'd be setting at about number 7 in the largest graphite mine. But we know what we know is that there's enough graphite out there to serve the U.S. needs for graphite for many years to come. And so for us, the challenge is how do we develop this mine to first fit the community of Nome and the residents of Nome, and then second to meet the needs of the graphite for the U.S. Supply. For those of you that don't know, graphite is used essentially in all of the electric vehicles and all of the energy storage. But bigger than that, it's the anode material in all of your cell phones, all of your computers that you're using right now, your laptops, and importantly, in a lot of the drones and the military equipment. And because of that, in July of last year, the Department of Defense actually issued us a $37.5 million technology investment agreement to complete the feasibility study on the Graphite Creek deposit. So in 2022, we completed the pre-feasibility study, which showed it as a viable project. And the DoD stepped in, which is Department of Defense, and said, hey, we need to accelerate this project and we would like to support you. So how that works is every dollar we spend, they reimburse 50 cents of that cost. I should point out that the DoD only agreed to pay for non-ground disturbing work. So any ground disturbing work that goes on out there, we actually have to pay for out of our own pocket. And this is obviously because they don't want to harm the environment, but they do want to support all of the environmental work that we've got going out there, the baseline studies that we're doing. So with that grant, we kicked off in July of last summer to complete the feasibility, and the grant mandates that we have 18 months to submit the feasibility study to the Department of Defense, which would be December of 2024. So we're down to 12 months to complete it. What we learned from our pre-feasibility study, we were looking at a very, very small mine of 2,500 tons per day. And when we went out to the industry and talked to them, the comment came back, wow, that's great, but we would need 10 of you guys to supply our need. Knowing that we were sitting on a very large graphite deposit after the pre-feasibility, and this came because the market just continued to grow during the time that we were doing the study. So after we completed the pre-feasibility, the goals of the feasibility study was to increase this to a 10,000 ton a day mine, which would supply about 180,000 tons of graphite concentrate a year, okay? And so to do that, we had to go out and expand the reserve. Now, you heard me say, well, this is one of the largest deposits. That was based on the, essentially the trends that we had. We hadn't drilled it out. So the big summer program that we had going this year was to finish drilling out the deposits so that we can increase the reserves. I shouldn't say finish drilling out the deposit, drill out enough reserves that we can increase the mine size to the 10,000 tons. We completed that drilling this summer. We'll get those assays back. We actually got all the assays back here 2 weeks ago. And we're putting those results into a model to show us that we now have the reserves. Once that model's complete, we'll conduct engineering studies associated with the feasibility. We selected Bar Engineering out of Salt Lake City to conduct the feasibility engineering. And they in fact started work on the model here this week. We do not anticipate any problems finishing the feasibility study by December of this year. So when you look at the bigger project, we can complete the feasibility study this year. I know you guys are worried about manpower and what the staff up looks like out at Graphite Creek. Essentially, if we play a perfect game, and by a perfect game, that means we have no permitting issues because we're still in the pre-permitting stage of developing the mine. If we played a perfect game, the soonest that you would see the mine up and operating would be by 2030. And that does anticipate that you would not see any lawsuits or have any issues. So going with the perfect game theory, how we would roll this out is we would complete the feasibility engineering of December this year. We would file for our permits in the beginning of 2025. And there's the soonest you can get through the permitting process, and we do anticipate an environmental impact study or an EIS will be needed for this project, and that will take 2 years. So from 2025 to 2026 and 2027, we'll be going through the permitting process. And that's where we do all of our due diligence and show that we're not going to harm the environment, we're not going to harm the fish or the wildlife or the subsistence of the area. After you've shown that you can meet all those hurdles, then you can start constructing the mine. And it'll take essentially 2 years to construct the mine. First, you have to build a road into the project. The road going in is only actually 15 miles coming off of the Kawerak road there, going through the cobblestone, by the Cobblestone River and to the site. So it requires about 15 miles of road. It's not, we like to refer to it as a driveway. But, you know, from there, you build the road and then you can start constructing the facility. So it takes about 2 years to put the mine site in. We would operate the site 365 days a year. We do intend to use local hires for this. So this project is significantly different than a gold mine or a zinc mine. You look at Red Dog or you look at some of the gold mines, they fly a lot of the employees in and they fly a lot of the employees out. The price of graphite is not high enough to support the cost of transporting people from the lower 48 or the others. We truly need local people and local hires to make this project viable, okay? And so our goal and our business model actually uses local hires. Now we do have a man camp at site, but the man camp at site is because people from like Teller and Brevig missions won't be able to get to the site by road. So once we can get those people there, we'll have to keep them for the work term and then we'll send them back. People from Nome, we actually do anticipate busing back and forth daily. Now we do know, and Doug can surely attest to this, that there's going to be days that we can't run buses out there. So we will have to have accommodations set up for people to spend the night. But we would anticipate setting up housing support, because we know Nome right now doesn't have the housing available. We would anticipate setting up some sort of housing support to make sure that we could accommodate the people, and then putting in a smaller man camp at site so that we could accommodate people from Schaffner and all the other local communities where we transport people, but as limited as we can on the transport. When you look at the total staffing requirements, you heard me say that we would start construction in 2027. You know, the construction of that, you'll probably see up to about 300 to 400 people during the construction phases of that, maybe slightly higher. Those would be based in a man camp, a portable man camp that would be removed when you're done. And then when you go into the operations, we'll start phasing out, and we would anticipate about 130 people at the site. If you'd seen more pre-feasibility studies, we had more people than that. Part of making this economic, you heard me say that the prices can be challenging. One of the big moves we made, we went to bigger equipment, we went to you know, more automation. What we know is we have to be able to compete with China. So in 1996, the last graphite mine in America was shut down because the graphite prices were low. By utilizing technology and utilizing the right equipment, we know that we can compete with China on the price of graphite. And when we can compete with China, then we won't have a problem with them putting us out of business. And that's good for the stability of the workers and good for the stability of the mine. So by designing this mine properly, we'll come in with about 130 employees. And right now we're looking at a mine life of in the 20-year range, but you've heard me state that there's enough graphite out there to cover out where people's grandkids could retire. The real question is, will they find a different material for these car batteries in the next 40 or 50 years? Or will they continue to use graphite? Our business model only projects 22 years, but for sure we expect there many, many years beyond that. So, you know, that's kind of the business model. So when you see us hiring the people for this, you're going to see that we've got, knowing that we're going to hire locals from the local area for as much as we can. You'll see us go in and start hiring people up to a year prior to the start of the operation in 2029, because we're going to have to train them. We're going to run them through training programs, you know, whether they be a truck driver or a control room operator or a mechanic. We'll start running them through training programs and bringing them up to speed. So you'll see our staffing levels start to take on in 2029 as the construction crews drop off. A lot of the operational crews will start up. We'll also run a small office there in Nome, probably 6-7 people. And then we'll have our current office, which we've got in Anchorage there at 471 West 36th Street. We'll continue running that office there for part of the procurement and upper management there. So with that, that's a lot of information. I'll kick it open. If there's any specific questions, I can give you a bit of a bigger picture about Graphite One and the entire supply chain, because really all I've covered here was the mining side and what's centric to Nome. We do have also the anode material, active anode material plant that will be produced in Ohio, and that's essentially the other half of the supply chain where we make the material that we send directly to the car manufacturers. So I think I've hit the end of my time slot. With that, let me kick it back to you guys and see how you want to go from there.
Thank you for all this information. We do have a little bit of time, so if you do want to get broader about Graphite One, we do have a little bit of time to do that. But let me pause and see if anybody has any questions.
BEC meeting today, and I just
Okay. Yeah, any questions on the mining side, and then I can give you a bit of a broader picture about Graphite One in general. All right, so Graphite One, when you look at the whole company, it's essentially made up of two entities. We've got Graphite One Alaska, which is what I operate, and we run the mine out of Anchorage there. And then we're going to have Graphite One US, which is essentially the secondary treatment plant. So at the mine, we'll produce a 95% graphite concentrate, 180,000 tons a year of this concentrate. We'll take this concentrate, we'll ship it through the port facility at Nome. We'll barge it down to Seattle and we'll take it to our secondary treatment plant. And the secondary treatment plant essentially takes this 95% graphite, purifies it to 99.99% graphite, and then essentially coats the graphite and makes it ready for use in the electric car batteries. One thing that people need to understand is right now, when you look at the battery in your computer or the battery in a car, the faster they charge these batteries, the less natural graphite material they have in them. So when you see this 3C or 4C, and now they're going to 5C charging, the amount of artificial graphite in these batteries starts to go up. So what you're going to see is the product from the mine is typically going to be used more for energy storage purposes. And what that is solar power, wind power, all of these. Obviously, the sun doesn't shine at night, so you've got to put in massive storage facilities, which typically use iron phosphate batteries instead of nickel cadmium batteries, which you can use in a car. You're going to see more of the natural graphite from the mine used in these energy storage facilities. So right now we're looking at putting in a artificial graphite facility that'll start up in 2026. Okay, and this will make graphite from petroleum needle coke and coal. And then a typical car battery will have a portion of natural graphite and a portion of artificial graphite blended together in. Okay, and then the natural graphite is actually coated, spiritualized with this artificial graphite. So we'll be putting the facility down in the lower 48 to do that. The reason for that is the process of graphitizing this graphite or coating it is incredibly energy intensive. You have to heat it up to 3,000 degrees to drive off the impurities, and you also have to run it up to about 2,800 degrees to coat it. So in that process, it ends up consuming a massive amount of power. So low cost energy is one of the biggest concerns to making this product. And the other reason for putting in the low 48 is all of the manufacturers that you're going to be supplying are located down here. So whether it be Tesla, Ford, Chevy, Stellantis, any of these companies are located down here. So it puts you right in their backyard for producing those products. Okay. Any question?
So as we invite Doug and Lisa and others to speak, I think it would be great for this group to be thinking about what the impact, the workforce impact of all of this new development would be. And Mike, I don't know if that's something you can comment on, but if you can, yeah, please do. But hopefully our other speakers will be able to address that as well.
Well, yeah, and you guys have probably seen the press release where we formed an agreement with BSNC. We're very happy about that. And in this agreement, you know, it fits exactly how we wanted to do business. But the agreement actually gives priority to shareholder hire. But in addition to that, it sets up a lot of training programs. So we'll be rolling out scholarships this year. I think we're going in at $25,000 of scholarships this year. And our thought process is, we know for the interim, there's probably not people trained in the mining aspect of the business out there to a large extent. So we know we're going to have to develop that. So obviously the entry level, we can hire local. And we want to start training people for the positions of environmentalists, mining engineer, metallurgists. And our goal would be in 10 to 15 years to have 100% local employment. Okay, all the way through the general manager of the mine. And I know this can be done because I've lived in towns and facilities that have done exactly that. Now, it took them 30, 40 years to get to the point where they could take even the higher level positions. But having seen this in my career, I have no doubt that we can get the workforce we need. And this agreement that we've signed with the SNC is just the start of making that a reality. Okay. I think you're muted.
sorry about that. Thank you so much, Mike. We appreciate you coming on here and educating us today. So next, I was going to ask Doug to come on next, but instead we will have Okleasik come on next, if you would, sir, and if you could introduce yourself and what your group is doing to address the workforce needs in the Nome region. Thank you.
Yep. Zalotak, everybody. Ovungatiga Ukallaysaaq. My name is Ukallaysaaq, and thank you for this invitation to present with the Alaska Safety Alliance and this work group. Really appreciate that. So as a background, I'm a consultant with Northwest Planning LLC based in Nome, and I'm working with the university and Northwest campus on a project. I've got a PowerPoint to share that hopefully I can do. Let me try to share my screen. Okay, good. I think it's up there. And let me just test. Can you see that okay?
We can.
Okay, excellent. Just open up my chat just in case there's some questions. I can monitor that. So this is a Nome Workforce Needs and Career Pathways project. It's supported by the Denali Commission and is supported through Northwest Campus. And I'll get into some details. So as you heard from Graphite One and some of the other, prep for this meeting, the port development in Nome, there's going to be some really big projects. And so this was a very proactive project, and to say, how can we get ready for all these impacts and all this development? So the Denali Commission has been a huge partner, supportive partner of this. I'd like to acknowledge Eric O'Brien for all of his leadership that he's lent to the project. But the idea is to provide a comprehensive review of Nome's workforce needs, identify career pathways that maximize local employment opportunities. This is being done as an 11-month project that's staffed by myself as a consultant. And we have an implementation committee, and we have a number of committee members on the call today joining us. So acknowledge each of them so that we have a community engagement, networking with agencies, and can have this process for diverse insights. So there's 3 phases of this project. We've completed phase 1 on employment opportunities, and I really appreciated the update from Graphite One. I was listening very closely. I've read your pre-feasibility study, looked at your website. So it was great to hear those updates. We looked at employment sectors, community employers and their trends, and profiling positions that we could look into the future the best we could, 1 year, 4 years, and 10 years. And I sent that report that could be shared with your group if you want to look at that in more detail. The phase we're in right now, which is almost completed, we'll be releasing the report later this month, is on the local labor pool, looking at interested and unemployed, underemployed individuals, how we can better reach that target audience, and recommendations to improve awareness on opportunities and career pathways. And then the last phase, which we'll finish this summer, is looking at both those sets of data and coming up with what are the training services and programs that could be developed. Was there a question or comment? I just heard somebody. Okay, let me keep going. So ideally, we want to have pathways to have high impact employment. That's been a big focus of the project. And then what are the priorities with the university, with community partners, with employers that could invest into services and infrastructure that maximize employment opportunities? So let me just do a quick overview of Nome. Many folks may already be familiar with this part of the state, but this is considered the Nome census area. It's rural. It's also referred to as the Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, and Bering Strait region. There's Nome in 14 villages: Brevik Mission, Diomede, Elam, Gamble, Koyuk, Savunga, Shaktoolik, Shishmaref, St. Michael, Stebbins, Teller, Unalakleet, Wales, and White Mountain. Nome is the hub for air and marine transportation, as well as the delivery of regional services. And about 75% of our residents are Inuit or indigenous peoples of the area. So just real quickly looking at what did we see as far as our employment picture? You know, what is our employment now? Looking at 2022, kind of the most recent year compiled, there's about 311 employers in the census area or the region, 3,849 average annual jobs, and about 258 million wages paid in that year. Looking at sectors and using the same platform Department of Labor uses to analyze economies, we have two sectors, right? Government and private. Our government sector is a significant portion, right? 124 employers, about 1,672 average annual jobs, and about 92 million wages. Private, 187 employers, 2,267 average annual jobs, 166 million in wages. This does exclude self-employed fishers, domestics, unemployed, or unpaid family workers, and subsistence being a big part of our economy in a rural area. So what does future employment look like, right? So that was a big task to kind of look into a crystal ball. And I've got a photo here of a pilot driving or flying a plane, you know, looking at the horizon is kind of what it feels like. Just as a quick disclaimer, right? These are estimates. They're not guarantees of future performance, and the reader's caution not to place undue reliance on forward-looking statements. Things have unknown risk and uncertainties, actual results may differ, etc. So looking at this, we are looking at a steady growth. And then in the green in particular is the good producing. I want to point that out in particular, just because we heard from Graphite One, and that's where those mining jobs, construction jobs would really be in. And you can see like in 2023, not a big portion of the economy, right? But at the end of that period, almost tripling in size. So there is definitely a big growth with Graphite One kind of being that big fuel to it, and the in between the port development feeding that as well. So looking at future employment, we saw two main job opportunities, the existing 3,849 average jobs in 2022. So there's an ongoing turnover, and turnover is very significant in rural Alaska, probably Alaska in general, but rural Alaska in particular. There's a lot of terminations and retirements. A lot of people move on. Sorry, my daughter's homesick today. Let me just take a quick break.
Okay.
Yep, sorry about that. The other part is economic growth. So potentially there's 506 new jobs by 2033, sorry. And right, those major infrastructure projects in the near term include our hospital's Kawerak Care Center expansion, the Port of Nome expansion, Graphite One, mine development, and community infrastructure, particularly with federal funds that eventually work their way through the system. That whole COVID response, the bipartisan infrastructure bill, those takes a lot of time to filter out into water and sewer, roads, and climate resilient projects. So we've identified 13 major occupational codes using the Bureau of Labor Statistics coding system and 44 occupational titles. There's the 13 major codes. So you can kind of see it takes the existing economy into consideration, and then like the growth of the economy and new developments in the process. Where we're looking at now is, you know, how can we reach the labor pool? And so we've got a lot of people trying to, right, reach to them, employers, regional organizations, tribes and cities, schools and training, community entities, state agencies, federal agency, unions and groups. And that's been a big focus of my work these past few months. And hopefully that's the report that will come out with ways that we can better directly connect with interested and local job seekers, and then create awareness of the labor pool's needs and how we can coordinate efforts, which is another part of the third phase, really about coordinating training efforts. So with that, let me end my presentation. There's just my contact information, and see if there's any comments or questions.
Can you make any comments about how these kinds of projects are impacting your Nome's school systems, if at all?
You know, we have Doug with NACTEC that works in the school and primarily works with youth in job and career development. So he might speak best to that. But that's definitely been on the radar, right? And when you look at the development, the port project will probably is going to happen before Graphite One. And it's a great development because those are union jobs that pay very well and are really impetus for developing the construction industry. And then hopefully people that work on that project, whether they're at Sound Quarry with Bering Straits Native Corporation, or they're with the contractor via the Corps of Engineers, doing the port development, are kind of set up to transition to Graphite One's construction and mine operation. So there's definitely some coordination and things that can leverage each other. The other thing that we've talked about is, you know, Red Dog is our neighbor. We do have some employees that work in Nome, and that's also a possibility for people to maybe get training now in mining, get some job experience at Red Dog, and then see if they want to come back to Graphite One when that's ready to hire. So there could be some things that we do preparatory, right, that is before maybe they're ready to hire and do some development. But we've yet to kind of get to all those recommendations, but we've had discussion about those things already.
Thank you. Any other questions? You can also put it in the chat, as Carrie had noted. Okay, without further ado, I will call on Luisa with Kawerak to come on and introduce Kawerak and what Kawerak is doing to address the workforce needs of the region.
Good morning. Yes, thank you. I'm Luisa Machuca. I'm the Vice President for Education, Employment, and Training. I oversee all of the workforce development and education programs here at Kawerak. So Kendra Nichols-Tekak, she's our workforce, she's our education employment director, and she's been pretty paramount in conversations and collaborations with with all of the groups in our region and along with the planning committee. So I'm going to kind of just speak a little bit. Kendra has jury duty this morning, so I can't really call on her to provide any input at the time, but unless she's called in, I don't know, but so yes, so we we collaborate with all of the employers, anyone who has a stake in the game. So the city of Nome, the Northwest Campus, and other training, potential training sites or employers here to help meet the region's need through training and employment opportunities. So what we've been having been a part of the conversations that have been going on in the region for some time. And so through our collaborations, Kawerak is a big sponsor to help people who are interested in getting training, becoming certified, and engaging in employment opportunities. So through our programs, we fund people to go to school. We help support them to follow through with their academics and getting their certifications, and we connect them with employers and or employment opportunities throughout the region. So that's our main goal, and our main, I guess part of our collaborations. What we are doing also is we have a lot of different funding opportunities right now and we are going to be increasing our training opportunities. Oh, sorry. In the region with the upcoming projects. So we are focusing those trainings on the jobs that are up and coming and that will meet our regional needs, especially here in Nome, and getting local hire. That's our main goal, is to ensure that our regional residents are they have the opportunity to get the jobs that are in the region. Am I missing anything? That's kind of a big overall picture. I am very limited on information at this point, so I'm mostly listening. So I appreciate you asking me to come in and provide some information. But our board is very supportive of providing opportunities for our tribal members and regional residents to be the people that are, who are going to be taking up the jobs. We live in the region, we know the region, and we're going to be here. We're here for the long haul. This is where we live. And so, we are very supportive of that and providing the opportunities. And we really do want to provide training in region. It's really hard on people who live in the region to go outside of the region for training opportunities. So we really do try to bring in those training opportunities so people, it doesn't disrupt their personal lives too much. So yeah, do you have any questions?
Thank you so much, Luisa. And if anybody has any questions, and if you think of anything as Luisa, as we introduce Glenn and Doug, feel free to chime in. All right. With that, Glenn, I'd like to just call on Glenn Steckman, City Manager for Nome, to come online. I don't know how long I was muted for, but while Glenn did. Okay, well, I see Doug on. Doug, why don't we have you come on in while we resolve the technical difficulties we're having with Glenn here.
Okay, all right. My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. So I'm Doug Walrath. I'm the director of NACTEC. NACTEC is the Nome-based regional training center. We're a partnership between the city of Nome, Nome Public Schools, and Bering Strait School District. But quite honestly, we work with all partners in the region. So following up Luisa and the presentation from Kawerak, we actually have two different federal grants that we're running pass-through grants from Kawerak to NACTEC right now. So the actual funding of NACTEC due to these grants, probably half of our funds operating budget come from Kawerak grants. So those two grants, one is the pattern grant, Pathways Advancing Technical Training and Employment Readiness Now. So I work closely with Kendra. We meet monthly. The purpose of that is to coordinate what's occurring at the high school, the junior high and high school level in career and technical education, and have seamless transitions into adulthood and the technical trainings and certification that can lead to employment opportunities. So we're in year 3 of that 5-year grant. And then another really large grant, the A-NEED grant, is the Alaska Native Engineering Education Development Grant. That's an annual 1.1 or $1.2 million grant. It hires 4 STEM teachers for us. So we have, when fully staffed, and right now staffing is an issue, one, finding people, but the cost of housing in Nome is another detriment to that. But it funds 4 positions. 3 are itinerants that travel out to the 15 BSSD village school sites, and 1 here at Nome Elementary School. The focus there begins at the pre-K level. So the inquiry about education, what's happening to prepare. Really, kindergarten through 5th grade, 1st through 5th, is the strongest focus, but it is a pre-K 12 grant. So what I want to do, I want to share my screen and then take a look at NACTEC with a real, hopefully this will work, a quick tour of NACTEC. So this is a look at our website homepage right here. And I wanted to give you a tour of the NACTEC house, our student dormitory. So first, let me swing around. Whoops, I don't want to do that. Oh, I went way too far. I'm in the laundry room. Get out of the laundry room. I wanted to take a look outside. Let me take a step outside. So that's Nome Belts High School. That's the back of the high school. So the overhead door on the left is the wood shop. We're off to the right. We have an auto shop facility, but these 2 cars are driver education vehicles. So NACTEC is a DMV approved non-commercial driving school, and we do all driver ed training in the region. So we have instructors that can proctor the instructional permit exam and deliver the training, and then actually proctor the road test too. So this is our student dormitory. So I'll give you a real quick tour. We'll go take a look in the kitchen. Students fly in from the outlying villages, and they come in, they learn life skills training here. So they learn to cook in the kitchen. We've got an electric range, we've got a gas range, and we eat family style dinners sitting here with about up to 26 students at a time. Apologize for my navigation skills. I promise I was not drinking before I came to work this morning, nothing other than water. All right, so this is a look in a student pod. So there's 3 rooms that are in a student pod. So students come in, live together. I'll jump into this. This is a 3-person room right here. So they've got bed, wall locker, dresser. They're responsible for cleaning their rooms, making their beds every day, cleaning the common area. But what I wanted to show you with a look into workforce development training, first I should note that this area, the NACTEC house, life skills, living independently away from home, is often noted by our business and industry partners of one of the strengths of the program. But within our student dorm facility, we have embedded workforce development training. So this is a look at our heavy equipment simulator center. So in this area, you've got, these are all full motion based machines. So these CAT sims have all the equipment on it that you would find on the actual piece of machine. It's the actual seat, controls, everything. So we've got an excavator, small wheel loader, a grader, off-highway truck, mining truck, large wheel loader, jump over here, an articulated truck, and a dozer. And they're all networked to this computer. Let me step back. So that all the training that's done, we can build a digital training portfolio so that students know, and later potentially for employment purposes, we can pass along what students can do. So students get a login and a password. As long as they're logged in, it records everything they do. So this Sim Center, and for the purposes of the Business Education Compact, this was bought almost everything in here. And there's close to $1 million worth of training equipment now, was built with funding that came from the state of Alaska education tax credit. So the education tax credit is set to sunset on December 31st of this year. So last legislative session, Senate Bill 120 was introduced, I believe, in Finance Committee. That's sitting there and needing action this upcoming legislative session. And that education tax credit has been important for us to be able to access equipment like this to bring in for training. So this was formerly a library. We converted this over into a maritime. These are dual purpose driver education and boating skill simulators. And there's 3 basic aviation training devices that here that were on a former NACTEC grant we had with Kawerak Aviation Pathways. All the equipment in here has now been moved over to the school and replaced in the past 6 months with 3 crane simulators, a full motion based crane simulator and 2 mobile sims. Those mobile simulators we bring out to villages for training. And then I should also note that in this area, we work with Kawerak to do driver education training, supporting adults. But just yesterday, there was outreach from somebody in Kendra's office to schedule an adult heavy equipment training. So everything in our region is really done via partnership. So what we do in an adult heavy equipment training, we do 3 days of sim-based training with a NACTEC instructor here. And then Kawerak brings up somebody from NIT and partnering with others pulls in equipment so that the adults can transition off from the simular-based equipment onto real equipment. And we at NACTEC use these tools for a lot of career exploratory training. So that's a quick look at the NACTEC house. I'm going to jump over to the shop real quick. Mari, keep me on time. If I run too long, feel free to cut me off. So this is a look at our primary training facility over in Nome Belts High School. There's 3 large shops, a wood shop, a metal welding shop, and then the old auto shop. So we've got a tire changing station, a wheel balancer, a brake lathe, the 2-post auto lift that remains for our auto shop equipment. But we do small engine repair, ATV, snow machine repair, and this leads into on the right up here. This is a crosswind landing simulator. So this supports the aviation training pathway. And I'll take a step ahead and swing around. And then we've got over here that Piper Colt. We're working on rebuilding right now. The shop is approved through UAF CTC for FAA through the FAA for aviation maintenance dual credit coursework. So right now, take a look and swing around the wings for that plane is right there in the background. We have an aviation maintenance course going on semester based with Nome Belt students, and it's an aircraft covering. So they're working on rebuilding those wings right now. That's the engine right in the middle. That's been fully rebuilt. And I'll jump ahead, come to Nome Port, a tool for port. Back up. This is an underwater, the yellow underwater ROV video array. The vendor, this was our first iteration. We've since upgraded to a Defender series. So these were purchased in New York after 9/11 for port protection. So underwater of going and making sure no cause for underwater munitions planted. So in New York, as I understand, that's part of the daily protocol for the port protection safety right there. Drones were mentioned earlier, drones over here. But if you want to take a tour of our shop, all of these little hot spots, these are different courses that we offer. So both at the NACTEC house and then here, all of those little hot spots are videos that are embedded in here to learn more about the training strand. So specifically with regard to the port project coming up and then Mike's presentation with Graphite One, for us, driver licensing is important, and then a pathway to CDL. So you see the heavy equipment sims. There's another sim center that's upstairs above this shop right here that has a full motion based truck driving simulator and some other training tools in it. And then one last thing I wanted to share with you do I have, Mari, do I still have about 3 to 5 minutes that I can share a short video?
Yes, you do.
Okay, so one of the areas that we're moving, so we have this dorm, and then we can serve students, 20 up to 26 at a time. Bering Strait School District has, I don't know, population 1,000 students. There's many more that are out there. So we've been going out and doing village-based training as well, and wanting to really expand our outreach and how do we bring career and technical education to more students, get them exposed to bring them in. So right now we're working, well, I'm going to go to our website quick and just show you that under programs, our program tab and distance delivered, during COVID, we went through, because we were shut down from residential training, and we worked with Anchorage-based Upper One Studios to create a bunch of videos in aviation, small engine repair, welding, metal fab, and transportation. So if I click on small engine repair, for example, what we did is we took the 11th edition of small gas engines, Roth. We went through this textbook, identified what's all of the critical content that a student would need to know, knowing that there's a shortage of CT teachers, and specifically in villages that are there. We created a video series. So effectively there's about maybe 15 different videos that are here, 3 to 5 minutes, some 7 minutes long, beginning with shop safety, small engine tools, measuring equipment, fastener sealants and gaskets, electrons, electron theory, testing regulators, testing electrical components, testing ignition switches, two-stroke operations, four-stroke operations, fuel pumps, fuel system, heat, purpose of heat, keeping moisture out of the fuel system. All of these are available on our website so that teachers from village, teachers from anywhere, quite honestly, could access those. So aviation, I mentioned we had a 3-year aviation grant. Likewise, there's a series of 15 videos. It really focuses on 2 of our training tools. On the right of this video off on the left is a precision flight controls Cat 2 basic aviation training device. With that aviation pathways grant, we purchased one of these for all of the schools in the region. This is another one of the Kawerak pass-through grants that are there. So every school has this basic aviation training device. The video series then shows you how to go. This is a scholarship through Kawerak, how to access funding. But the basics, how to set up the unit, basic troubleshooting, pre-flight checklist, changing out throttle modules, how to take off, how to land. So we really wanted it to be information rich, that people could access information on demand when it was fitting to them, because we frankly don't have enough people here. We're bare bones. I only have 2 teachers here right now to answer all those questions. So in the welding and metal fab, there's one video. This is a time-lapse video that shows a tandem axle trailer project that we build out in the villages. We're getting ready to go to Savunga next week to do a welding program out there and build one of these. We're going to Stebbins next month. Over the course of 3 years, we'll do this in all the villages. And then under transportation is a plug for our driver education program and to help students prepare with the documents to get their instructional permit before driving. But also one of the training tools we use, Cat Simlight units. We have a dozer, an excavator, and a compact track loader that are in 2 Pelican hard cases that can get sent out to videos. This video shows how to set those up and take it down to be used. The video I wanted to share with you over here, we have a Denali Commission grant right now, moving into the world of VR instruction. So in the next 9 months, we're looking to develop courses, and this is a look at small engine repair here. Small engine repair, outboard motors, ATV snow machine repair, aviation maintenance, and electrical theory and multimeter usage. So we began in small engine repair. This is about a year ago. Took it out, tested it in the villages. You'll see the shop that we just walked through is now our virtual environment to work in. Got feedback from students. Students mentioned that being in the environment of disassembling and assembling an engine by themselves was lonely, and asked for a more interactive feedback. So this is a concept that we're moving forward in the next year to look at the the integration of an instructor into
Hello.
that virtual setting.
Welcome to a look at what's next for NACTEC and VR. By integrating online instruction options into your NACTEC VR modules, we can enable new and exciting remote training opportunities. The following concept demo represents some of the targets for our next phase of development. This representation will demonstrate features such as real-time remote communication with a student in VR and remote updates to the VR game world at the discretion of the instructor. All right, here you are back at the NACTEC shop, huh? Looks familiar, right?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good. How's the headset feel?
It's comfy. You can see me in here?
I can see what you're doing, yeah.
So no goofing around.
Something like that. But this could still be fun. It's been a while since we had you at the shop. Do you remember your way around these engines?
I think so.
Great. Well, in that case, we'll start with a little refresher. I'm just going to name some components, and I want you to find them on the engine in front of you and point them out to me, okay?
Sure.
Okay, let's start with something easy. And you point to the kill switch. Right, good. How about the throttle? And the gas cap?
This is too easy.
Okay, okay. In that case, what's this piece here?
What?
I just made it glow green. Yeah,
Shroud?
recoil cover shroud. Yeah, very good. You know what it does?
Airflow?
It's important for airflow, yeah. Can you find the oil caps? You can press the rotate buttons to rotate the engine. They're green arrows. Yeah, good.
Oil caps. Here. Here.
Good. That's enough of a refresher for now. We can review more later. Let's start troubleshooting now.
Where do you want me to start?
Well, where would you start?
Probably try to start the engine.
Okay, let's give that a try.
It won't start.
Yeah, that didn't work. What now? What are the three most common issues you might run into, generally speaking?
Fuel, air, spark.
Good.
Compression. Or
Right.
electrical.
Sure. Okay. So given that,
Check the air filter, maybe.
good. Let's do that. Do you remember how to remove the cover?
This bolt here.
I'll unlock it. You can pull it off now. How does the filter look?
Looks clean to me.
It's good to me too. Must be something else then. What do you want to check next?
Spark plug.
Sure, let's give that a try. As you saw, the instructor here was able to connect with the student remotely, in this case benefiting from the rapport they had established in person in the past. They were able to work through exercises much as they might in person, observe the student's progress in real time, and leverage digital tools such as highlighting target objects or locking and unlocking interactions. This is only a small mock-up of what is possible in this space, and we believe that with the right implementation, tools such as this will offer enormous benefits for remote learning. Thanks.
All right. So with that, I'll hop back over. So that's a direction that we're moving in right now. So next week, we have an aviation maintenance course. We're bringing that Anchorage-based contractor designery up here. And I made an outreach to Bearing Air earlier this week to look to use perhaps a hangar there to create that virtual environment. So once again, the working in that workspace, a student in a remote village could take a tour as we did earlier, see the workspace, but then as we bring out headsets, so we're looking by August of this year, so September next school year coming out, to have all of those units ready to roll with small engine repair, outboard motors, ATV snow machine repair, aviation maintenance, and then electrical theory and multimeter usage. So we could bring headsets to a village and or I guess purchase and have a person there in the village school that would oversee that. And then a student would be able to go and train in all those environments. And I think the element that's exciting and with the feedback that came from students is that interactive component built into it, so that there's a whole bunch you can do and build and create in that virtual or augmented reality world. But the ability to interact with an instructor periodically will just help scaffold learning, bring students along, so that by the time they sign up for our training, come in here to go through, they've already been in the facility in a virtual environment, and hence a greater comfort of being away from home and working in that environment. So we've purposely selected those things that are kind of cross-cutting skill sets that could go into different industries and provide, you know, that the technical training, that certification of that pattern grant that I mentioned, to help people move to different work positions. Ukallaysaaq gave kind of the history and noted that there is a lot of turnover that occurs. So just getting folks the technical training to be a more highly skilled technical workforce will create more opportunities for our local folks to secure some of these. I forgot what you mentioned, Ukallaysaaq, 530 some jobs coming in the next 9 years, which is huge for our region. So I'll stop there and answer any questions or kick it over to Glenn if he's come onto the call.
We did have a couple of questions in the chat. Doug, there was a question about the simulators and whether or not students earn certifications.
Yeah,
Like-
so we have effectively a NACTEC based certification that we use for folks going through. But as far as becoming a skilled operator, the amount of hours to do that far exceed the capacity that we have in 2-week residential trainings or short duration programs to bring in.
Thank you, Doug. There's also a question regarding the NACTEC lessons and whether or not they've been shared with the Alaska Education Exchange. Could you answer that in the chat, Doug? Because I want to bring in Mr. Glenn Steckman, who I see is on camera now. We want to just make sure we have enough time for him to present and for the members to make comments at the end.
All right,
So,
sure.
Glenn, I see you are unmuted. We will invite you in. We apologize for the technical difficulties we had this morning. So glad you were able to finally join us. I'm going to spotlight you.
Thank you. And just so you know, I am triple booked right now. This is the price I'm paying after coming back from vacation of 16 days. I want to give you an update on the port. As you well know, the port has been under design. The Corps of Engineers is acting as the agents for the city on this. The date of going out to bid keeps on being pushed back. It was supposed to be a ceremonial signing tomorrow, but because of weather, it will probably not be happening. But the bid package is scheduled to be put out to the contractors on February 15th with the intent. The question is it going to be a 60 or 75-day turnaround? But the goal is to stay with a target date of being able to award the bid July 15th of this year. So there will be probably no active construction of any sort, whether it could impact the construction of the employee housing that is part of the contract for the port. There will be questions if any rock will be cut this year or will be cut at very late in the season. So the real heavy activity should be taking place sometime in the summer of 2025. The original goal was to have had awarded this bid by April 30th. Now we're looking into July, and that date could move a little bit. I don't think it's going to move forward. It's probably going to move backwards. As this is the first, this is a $400 million phase. The project, this first phase is going to be bid out with various options that we can pick and choose on whether to proceed on with these options in the first step of the construction of the project. So from a community standpoint, this is probably good because it allows our partners in this, the school, Doug and everything else, the University of Alaska Fairbanks, to get more training programs in to make sure that the workforce is here and in place. I know Bering Strait Native Corporation is helping, and I know Graphite One. So that's pretty much the update on the port, if anybody has any questions or concerns.
Okay, I'm not seeing any questions come through chat. Oh, we have a question from Gay Sheffield. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Glenn, for the update. Is there a reason why the port has been delayed so far ahead? And I think you said it's likely to go forward, so meaning I think into the potentially later than July. Is that my understanding? Thank you.
Well,
Identify your organization as well.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Gay Sheffield. I'm with UAF Alaska Sea Grant, and I live and work here in Nome. Thank you.
well, this is a Corps of Engineer project on behalf of the city of Nome. And, you know, they want to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed because this is a massive construction project up here. And we have been, you know, we are working around the Corps schedule. So it's not a delay from the city. It's more, you know, the Corps double checking and dotting their I's.
Okay, and when you say, and then lastly, just to get my timelines kind of right, you're saying it may even be extended into the future, the award, not
Well,
earlier.
we have requested, the city has requested, because we want to get the best price from our contractors, that they have enough time to review the bid and to submit a bid that they feel comfortable with, instead of any, you know, they say, okay, we're going to pad the bid so that for any of the what ifs, we want to avoid that so we can get the best bid price in what is a very difficult bid market. So that's why, if it's going to move from the July 15th award date, it's not going to be, it just is going to be a matter of days. But it's still the Corps is managing when they're going to put it out, when they're going to request the bid package back, and then when their staff will review the bid package.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, Gay. And I want to put out to our BEC participants, as Mr. Steckman and the rest of the panelists spoke about these projects happening in Nome in Northwest Alaska. How does this information impact your organization? What are you hoping to take away from this session? And I saw Julie and Terry both come on screen. So let's start with Julia.
Good morning. Thanks to all of the presenters this morning. Thanks for sharing your time. I have a question. There's several. I'm with ACPE, the Alaska Commission on Post-Secondary Education, and my particular project is the Alaska Career Information System and getting information out to students and job seekers from 3rd grade through retirement across the state. And so there's several other support services that are joining this call today. And so for all the speakers, I know you still have Mr. Steckman spotlighted at the moment, but for all of our presenters today, are you looking towards more statewide release of information through the job center, secondary education, some of us support agencies? How can we help out? And is there an update coming to, say, the mining workforce development plan? I'm not finding anything that's much newer than 2014, and how some of us in the support agencies might be able to help out with that.
Yes, from Graphite One side, this is my chapter. For sure, we're looking at working with guys, and we in fact have worked with the groups this summer. We've got Kevin Torpy, who's actually heading up the summer operations for us. And I know he's reached out and actually started job pages with the Alaska employment agencies, and we do post all our jobs there. So.
And I'll know if I'll follow up on Mike, the job center. That's a really good question, Julia, that you asked. We've had turnover in our job center. There's only one person, their employment security specialist. I understand that interviewing will occur for that soon, but that's been really important for us at NACTEC as the gateway to employment opportunities.
Sorry,
for
I'm
students.
triple booked this morning.
Glenn, you're not on mute. For folks coming in from villages for training is to bring them down to the job center, network them with the employment security specialist. And then Vicki Erickson was there for many years here in Nome. She would always note how years later, former NACTEC students would come in, they would know where to go, know who to talk to. So resources like that are invaluable. So I hope that gets staffed soon.
Thank you, Doug. Terry?
Good morning, everyone. Terry Cothran, an Associate Vice President of Workforce Development at the University of Alaska. And Julie, I'm going to just touch briefly on your question about the mining plan. Alaska Safety Alliance is currently contracted with Denali Commission to develop a cross-industry skill or update a cross-industry skills plan. And part of the reason for that approach is because so many of the workforce needs, from oil and gas to mining to the deep water port in Nome, maritime even, and construction tied to all of the other infrastructure projects, are all needing a similar workforce. And so that is in play, and I'll leave it up to Carrie Ann and her team to talk more about that. But I think it'll be really critical as we think long-term about these needs. And then locally with Nome, what has been such a great takeaway for, and certainly represented here today, is the strength in the local partnerships. When you hear about what Doug is doing with NACTEC, and Kawerak is a partner, and the mention of Department of Labor and the job centers, and you've got the mayor and the city involved, and Bering Strait Native Corporation, and the list goes on. There's such great partnerships already in place wanting to help Nome and the local region be successful. From the training provider perspective, which I left Northwest Campus off the list, that's another key partner there locally as a part of the university system. And how we're approaching it, we partnered back in January of 2023, so a year ago, and hosted in partnership with Denali Commission and all of these local partners, the Nome Workforce Summit. And the intention was to really kick off continued work, recognizing that there's a great opportunity ahead with the deep water port and with Graphite One and the upcoming needs, and rallying around that. And then since then, you've seen today what Ukallaysaaq is doing, and that is deepening that work to go into a full report that will then roll into implementing the strategies, kind of the priorities that are identified to meet those local workforce needs, and ultimately trying to figure out how do we ensure that we train up as many people locally, because that will help the employers retain that workforce at such a higher level, and then help the local economy. I especially appreciated, I think, is it Mike, when you mentioned housing, that Graphite One's really interested in partnering on housing. That was another key takeaway in Nome, is how do we ensure there's housing available for the workforce while they're being trained, and as well as a place to live and work in the local area. So lots of opportunity, and from the university system, even outside of the Nome areas, how can we use resources across our system to provide access to training there in Nome, as well as intensives, getting people to Fairbanks if needed to fill those gaps. So I'll pause there. Great information. Really appreciate all that was shared.
Thanks, Terry. Hey, I just wanted to kind of pull some of the pieces that Terry talked about together when it comes to what Alaska Safety Alliance is doing in partnership, not just with the Denali Commission, but with the Alaska Department of Labor and the AWEB to build the statewide workforce development plan. And we know that there are current plans in several of our industry sectors, and we're not kind of throwing the baby away with the bathwater. We want to use that information that's already out there and the work that's been put in recently to building a broadband workforce development plan. All of that's going to come together. There's so many components, and we want to be very inclusive statewide. We want to make sure we're covering a multitude of industries, all of our priority industries for sure, and certainly where the crossover is in similar industries. And then also having a kind of a regional look. We've hired a couple of contractors with the funding that has been made available to us through Denali Commission and the department to ensure that we are touching base with local areas, that we're coordinating with efforts from Northwest Alaska to Southeast Alaska, because there's some great things going on statewide. Some of the work that we're doing on a regional and local level is critical and important to the success of these projects. So we're trying to build a convening organization where we're communicating statewide, where all of these groups that are doing fantastic work statewide to build these projects and build a workforce to support the projects are working together in coordination, having great communication from all areas of the state, and prioritizing and supplementing training programs where it's needed. So it's kind of a big, broad picture. If you have questions or just want to talk about that, please feel free to give me a call anytime. I'll throw my contact information into the chat. And then just know that really part of our priority and part of our function at ASA is to ensure that we have a real tight industry involvement and engagement in this production of a statewide workforce plan and prioritization of occupations. So thanks.
Thank you, Carrie Ann. Thank you, Terry. And a big thank you to our panelists, Mike Schaefer, Doug Walrath, Glenn Steckman, Ukallaysaaq, and Luisa. And with that, I would like to invite anyone else from our BEC group to make comment or present a roundtable item for the group.
Go ahead, Julia.
I have a roundtable item to add. As many of you might, well, I don't know. I don't know if you track the FAFSA like we do here at ACPE, but if you are working with students who are needing to complete the FAFSA, the FAFSA.ed.gov, the big FAFSA people, have had a soft launch. The FAFSA is not available 24/7. And so it has moved a lot of due dates and things like that back. The FAFSA still is required for anyone applying for the Alaska Performance Scholarship, as are all the original requirements for getting the Alaska Performance Scholarship, including rigorous curriculum and standardized test scores from the ACT, SAT, or Work Keys assessment. And their GPA, but we do have sessions that are happening on Tuesdays and Thursdays. You don't have to be at both, and you can attend just one if that's what you want to do, or attend multiple, called Master the FAFSA. I'll put that link in the chat for share out to all of your peoples that you can. And the idea with that is for people to learn more about the FAFSA, how they can help their population. You can imagine with such a late release, this should have been released back in October, that's going to make it very strenuous for ACPE staff to be able to help everyone in the state of Alaska complete their FAFSA. And so we're very much going to need those experts in all of those pockets around the state to complete the FAFSA. So when you attend, then the Master of the FAFSA class, the idea would be that you can host a FAFSA night, maybe get some specific questions answered from ACPE staff, but that you might be hosting an event or helping individuals and families in your particular area or with your particular organization.
Thanks, Julia. If you put that in the chat, I'll also get it out to the group when I send a post email to everyone. Any other announcements? Roundtables?
I'll say one thing, Mari, just really quickly, that so 2024 is the 25th anniversary of the Alaska Safety Alliance as an organization. And I know it's a little ways out, but October 25th, we'll be having our 25th anniversary celebration, which is going to be at O'Malley's on the Green at the Anchorage Golf Club. If folks are in town in October, mark your calendar for that. Thanks.
Here we are. Mike, did you have any final comment?
Oh, thanks for having me. Very, very informative and really look forward to working with all the members of this group as we go forward. It's you guys have brought the task out to light, and it is a lot of work coming our way, but we look forward to working with you guys on that.
Thank you. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. And we'll join us again in February.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hey.